All right, now that we've got all those blocks cut, we're nearly ready to start building our A-frame. We have one small step left to do, and that's remove any extra snow while the A-frame is open. This is extra snow that is going to help us widen the sleeping area, give us more shoulder room, but we want to get it out before we enclose everything. So to do so, I'm going to get my small snow shovel, and I'm going to walk down the trench, and I'm going to take about 6 to 8 inches off of each side. And I'm going to throw that out. Don't throw it too far, just set it outside. We might use it to patch up some cracks later. Let me get this side. I just kind of cut in 6 to 8 inches on an arc. 2, 3, I'm going to try and get underneath it, pop it as a block. All right, lift that whole thing out, set it on the side. A couple more, pop, comes out as a block, set it on the side. I want to continue doing that all the way down the trench. And again, it's to make extra shoulder room so that when I sleep, I don't feel bound and constricted. All right. These next couple of slides are kind of detailed. This is the business about how to build and place the blocks. I'm going to go through it one time with the words, and then we've got some blocks, and I'll set them up, and we'll go through it a second time. All right? So the key principles that make the A-frame stay together are the 3 points of contact. We get 2 points along the bottom of the block, and we get the third set of contacts at the top. We don't want any snow in the middle. If we have snow in the middle, the block is going to pivot and rock, and it won't be very stable. We needed something like a triangle. 2 at the bottom, and 1 up at the top. So and when we make those contact points, it actually slightly puts a curve in the block, and that's okay. With the curve, we know that we're only resting on the important points. 2 at the bottom, and 1 at the top. As we get ready to build, we also want to bevel the edge of our trench so that the blocks sit tight against the bottom. We don't want them to kick out, or we don't want them also to fall in. So this is kind of a tricky little angle. It's usually better to cut a little less than it is too much. The other cut will be at the top. It's the contact and the cut. We're going to lean 2 blocks together, but their points are going to hit. So we need to just lightly cut those off so they look somewhat like this, and match those 2 at the top. And that will make our third point of contact. All right. Another detailed slide. Each group of bullets describe how to put the blocks together to start making the A-frame. And the first couple blocks are the trickiest. You'll want a buddy to come help you get things started. There will be a staff member on the mountain to help you when you construct your own. But the sequence will always be the same. We're going to select one good full-size block and another good half-width block. And what I mean by that is in this graphic, a full block and half of a width. I want to create that little triangle. I'm going to place the full bottom block along the trench edge. Remember, we put a slight bevel there, and we're going to rest it just like that. And I'm down here at block number 1, and I'm working on those 2 green contact points. All right. So here's my slight concave arc in the bottom of the block, and that gives me the 2 points at the bottom. Next, I'm going to lean that block forward and also lean in the half block on the other side. Of course, prior, I did put a concave cut in the bottom and make sure that half block had the bottom 2 points of contact. So now I've lent them together. I'm going to take my snow saw as they start to make their contact at the top, and I'm going to cut these angles and gradually bring the 2 blocks together to a nice mating surface. The 2 blocks should be able to hold themselves unsupported. That's a good test. And if so, then we can move on. Let's rub some snow at the bottom and make sure those blocks are secure. Let's fill the gaps between the blocks to also secure them and prevent heat loss when we move in later. A word of caution, we always rub snow into the cracks. We don't pound snow. Don't press it, don't pound it. That'll break your block. So it's really important to just put it on and rub it. I'll demonstrate that in a moment. Finally then, we're going to repeat those upper steps as we lay the subsequent blocks on our A-frame. Now I want to show you how to actually build it. So I'm going to start with the full-size block right here, and I'm going to lean it inside my trench against the wall. I'm going to use my snow saw, and I'm going to cut along the bottom and make sure that there's nothing hanging it up, and I can guarantee I have 2 points of contact along the bottom, at this corner and at that corner. When those look pretty good, I'm going to get my second block, block number 2. It's a half-width block. I'm going to pull it into position. And I'm going to check the bottom to make sure it's concave, nothing's hanging it up, and guarantee I have my 2 points of contact. And now I'm going to bring these two together. There we go, looking good, good. And I need to cut the angle at the top. So I'm going to use my snow saw, get down a little bit, and cut along the top and take off those 2 corners and gradually bring the blocks together so they touch. There we go. All right. Looking good. Now I want to take a little bit of free snow. I want to roll it and rub it into the bottom corners. Make sure it's going to stay in place. Let's get these 2 back corners over here. There you go. Rub it in place. Don't pound. You can break the blocks if you pound. All right. Oh, let's get a little bit up underneath. There you go. Out. Rub it underneath. There you go. I like to use the back of my hand. It smooths that little corner really nice. All right. Great. Block 1 and 2 are up. Let's go to the third block. It's a full-size block. We do it the same way. We're just going to keep repeating this process. Pull up the third block. Nestle it into place. Great. I'm going to check the cut along the bottom, make sure I have 2 points of contact. All right, looks good. I'm going to lean it in, get my snow saw and take off that top corner again. And match those 2. All right, looks good. All right, I got a little crack right there. I'll come back and fill that in later. All right, let's get a little more snow. Put that at the bottom. There we go. Rub some over here. I'm going to sneak up that crack a little bit. Make sure it's got a good. All right, get the top and a little bit underneath. All right, third block. Now the fourth block. Repeating the process. Another full-size block. I'm going to cut the concave cut along the bottom to make sure I have 2 points of contact. Nestle it in place. Bring it forward till it just touches the other block. And now I'm going to trim that angle a little bit more. Bring it together. Right. All right. Looking good. All right. Let's get some snow. Heel that in. All right. Great. For the rest of the blocks, I'm just going to For the rest of the blocks, I'm just going to continue this process until I get to the end of the entrance tunnel. All right, I want to use the graphic again and show you the progress that we made. When we were building, we were at blocks 3 and 4. And I mentioned we just continue on. So here we are, block 4. We continue full-size block, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. By the time we get to our 11th block, we should be at the end of the entrance tunnel and nearly ready to enclose our A-frame. To do that, of course, we need the 12th block. We need a solid end in there, so let's get that in. That's a half block. And then we need to close in this end right here. And we need to build the cooler block to finish off our A-frame. The cooler block's a really important component. It's what keeps us warm at night. And the best idea for a warm night's sleep is to make the cooler block at least 4 inches lower than your sleeping platform. I've marked on the graphic where your sleeping platform base would be, where you would sleep. And here in the yellow and orange lines, you can see the bottom of the cooler block, also where the pointer is. So to get the cooler block in place, it's a full-size block. It should fit right back in the trench just like we took it out, with a little gap on each side. So to put it in place, we're going to go to the collection of extra small blocks we have left over, and we need to get 2 pillars, and we're going to set those on the side of the trench. We'll use compacted snow, rub it in the corners, make them nice and strong. Next, we'll cut the tops precisely flat and level, and we'll bring in the full-size block and set it right up on those 2 pillars. That's our cooler block. That's what's going to keep us warm. To fill in the gap then, we'll use the remaining small half blocks to create these triangles and extra closure areas to seal off the A-frame. The last check then would be to use soft uncompacted snow, rub it in all the corners, fill all the gaps, and prevent any heat loss. All right, so that wraps up the A-frame construction part. Let's check in with a few questions here. Why is the sleeping area dug down on the sides and on the end? How many points of contact are needed to support the block? Why is the concave shape important? And what methods should we use to bond the blocks in place? All right, now that we've got the A-frame built, we've got the entrance closed in, we just have a few more details to complete before we're ready to move in. The first thing we need to do is we need to close in the back. We left it open to give us access in and out and be able to seal things, but we need to close it up to make it weather tight. So again, we're going to go to our extra blocks that we've had laying around, the partial ones, anything to close it in, and we're going to fill up those gaps. We're also, those small chunks, we're going to put them in any crack that's left between blocks. We're also going to take our shovels and we're going to shovel fresh snow over the outside to make sure we got every crack filled. And this is important because that's what's going to keep us warm. And then secondly, when we sleep overnight, there's enough heat that if there's the smallest crack, it will start to melt open and we'll lose all of our thermal efficiency of the A-frame. All right. Previously, we talked about how to install the cooler block. I think that should be pretty easy. I mentioned here, we might want to dig a little bit of snow from under the cooler block to give us a little easier access. In the graphic, I demonstrated down here. I'm just saying, if we dig a little snow from under that, it's going to make it easy to get underneath that clearance of the cooler block. All right. We filled the gaps from the inside. We also want to fill the gaps from the outside. And at this point, I think we're ready to move in. Oh, I did think of one other. It's really important to level the bed. Make sure the bed's level and so you can have a good night's sleep. I like to put a little angle to my bed. I like to have my head up high and my toes down low to make sure I'm not going to accidentally slip out the entrance tunnel in the middle of the night. So I'm going to use my snow shovel and my snow saw to drag and level and smooth to make a really nice sleeping platform. Level and flat. And then with that, I think we're ready to move in. To move in, we're going to lay down our ground tarp. We're going to put out our sleeping pad, lay out our sleeping bag, and let's shake up that sleeping bag too. We'll loosen up the insulation. It's been compressed in your pack most of the day, and this lofting of the bag will help keep you extra warm during the night. The other thing I would conclude with was I set out the things I might need at night. A headlamp, hat and gloves, maybe my water bottle. All right, the final point to talk about is how do we join them together? I left this at the back because it's just a little more detail, but really it works on all the same principles. So if I wanted to join two together, first I want to fully finish my first A-frame. Second, I want to just build another A-frame at a 90-degree angle that will intersect near the entrance area of the main igloo, main A-frame. All right. With the starting hole known, I'm going to cut blocks the exact same way. However, I'm going to stop about 10 inches short of the first A-frame. I don't want to cut out that wall yet. Next, I'm going to build and assemble blocks the exact same way, gradually moving closer to the union with the first A-frame. In fact, from the last steps will be to cut and miter special blocks to fit in that gap. From the outside and from the inside, we'll use soft, loose snow to fill in all the cracks and make sure that the connection is tight. Now, here's where we need to execute just a little bit of care. We want to go inside either of the main A-frame or the second A-frame and gently begin to cut out the wall that connects the two. And as we cut it out, we can cut it a little bigger until it's fully formed and up to the right size to let someone get in and out. And at that point, we're going to use the remaining loose snow to fill in the remaining cracks. And at this point, the two are joined. Both occupants could move in. The entrance is shared, and as long as that cooler block is below the level of both sleeping platforms, both occupants will sleep warm.